Gear up as Cash Miller and a team of accomplished guests steer you on an enlightening voyage filled with valuable tips, fresh insights, and effective strategies. Welcome to Marketing Masters, the Agency Power Show.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cash Miller, host of Marketing Masters, CEO of Titan Digital, and we're back with another great episode. We're going to be talking AI, which we've done a few times, but this time we're going to be, hitting from a totally different angle because, we're looking at it when it comes to audiences, and the things it can do to help you, figure out who you should be targeting. AI is, of course, it's been, really big in the news and everything, and a lot of people have experimented with it. There's pluses, there's downsides to it. There's all sorts of things. I've got with me Kendra Corman, H2H Consulting. Kendra, it's great to have you on. Tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. So I've been doing marketing for 20 plus years. I've been leading the way with strategy. I consider myself a little bit of a recession style marketer because I believe that all marketing that we do should drive results and should tie back to our business goals.
Yeah. Recession style marketer. That's a kind of an interesting term. You don't hear that one come up. Obviously in marketing, we want, results. Everything should be results oriented, but, a lot of times it's not, depends on who you're working with and such. You want to have goals set, you want to have, targets and everything, but depending on, a number of factors, you may or may not, really have figured out what you do, should be doing. But as a strategist, that's what you're focused on, right?
Yep, that's what I'm focused on is things that are going to drive results, not necessarily the newest, shiniest object. It's really about trying to take tried and true results. Yes, I still like to experiment, but some things, if people have unlimited budgets, I'm not the marketer for them.
Yeah, because we can just, we're good. We have unlimited amounts of money. We can just blow it on whatever, and hopefully we'll get something out of it.
Yes, and that's not for me.
Yeah, if you're sticking to a budget, you're more likely to also have a certain goal that you're trying to achieve and a result. And if you can't achieve it, then you won't have a budget, in the future, to be able to work with. You mentioned shiny objects. So AI, ChatGPT, and other systems, Google's got Bard, that they're working on, a number of things. It's about the shiniest object in marketing that you could possibly have. Is that correct?
It is a bit of a shiny object, but I don't think it's the same level as some of the newfangled tactics, all the people jumping on Instagram threads, nothing against Instagram threads. But if you can't support the social media channels you have right now, then you shouldn't be adding anything else.
Yeah, that's very true. Threads is, I say Twitter initially, X, whatever they want to call themselves nowadays. I love how in the case of them, they threw away, 15 years of brand equity, because he wanted a letter. You just never know. But that space is, all sorts of things going on. But in the case of AI, it's brought a number of changes, into how things are doing. It's going to definitely have more changes in the future because AI itself is advancing, quite rapidly. And really the difference between now and a couple of years ago, now it's in the forefront. Now we see what's going on. Now it's not that these things were not being developed. Okay. All these things did not happen suddenly overnight. It feels like it, but I think, in the case of chat, it forced the release of other products that were already in development, other types of AIs that do specific things. It's, I say, because there's no way that we, suddenly overnight have these things that didn't exist. Was it November of last year? I think that's when chat came along.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and I didn't realize that I actually used as much AI at the time that I was using. I didn't realize how much AI was in my daily business as it was until an AI expert pointed it out to me. And I think that opened me up a little bit more to testing and trying. And AI saves me 3 hours a week on my podcast. It saves me on average, I would say 15 hours worth of work
Yeah, I've had a number of discussions with people, and a lot of the focus on AI is it's really a time saving tool. Like I say, we try to emphasize, because we use it within our agency, that it is it's an assistant. It's not a replacement. Yeah, because if you don't have someone that knows how to use it correctly, it cannot do any of the things you want it to do.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, and I've heard that term applied to it, multiple times. So if we're incorporating it, because you're a strategist, so if you're incorporating it into your market and you're looking at how you define your target audiences, and you're trying to put together, whether it's personas or whatnot, to figure out who you should be marketing to, who is your ideal customer, things like that. How can whether it's chat or a different AI system, how can these things help you figure these out, really be that assistant for you, make, dealing with such questions more efficient, and also be able to get the, obviously the right results, because you got to be able to trust it.
Yes. So a couple of things. One, when I'm using it to define a target audience, there's a couple ways that I use this. And first off is we usually have an idea as to who we're targeting. You have an idea, you know your best client or the client that you want more of, or even if you're starting out, you know some detail about them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. AI, these ChatGPT and Claude and things, they were trained on data that's out there.
Yeah.
Well, these people were in there. And so they're able to actually put those clues together for you. I am a big fan of people calling their target audience and asking them questions, doing surveys, finding out information. I'm a huge fan of that. I would say 1 out of every 10 people I tell to do that, do it.
Oh, yeah. Right.
The rest of them don't. And so if you're not going to do that, there needs to be something else. You need to be able to do something else to finish your profile and really understand who it is. And the way I have people do that is you put some of that information in it. You tell ChatGPT that you are a marketing strategist. You are defining a target audience. Here's the product, here's the company, and here's who you work best with. Then you say, what questions do you need me to answer to fully define the target audience? It comes back with 10 questions. You can answer them. You can say, oh, I don't know, things like that. It'll build a persona for you and it fills things in. One of my clients was targeting managers in engineering. They were getting closer towards retirement. They're very secure in their job. That's all they had.
Yeah.
Well, I have the fact that, they're pretty much all white males. They're, we defined their age. We talked about the ages of their kids and the fact that they have at least one in college. So ChatGPT was able to take that little bit of information and build it out into a full target audience. And then what they like to do, what publications they read. And that narrowed it down so that we were able to go ahead and verify that information. But I didn't have to come up with the fact that they're reading, Private Pilot magazine.
Yeah.
We were able to get that from ChatGPT because it can give you just so many ideas when rounding out your audience. It said, they were going to baseball games for the high school on the weekends or, the travel team during the week. It identified a lot of that. We were able to verify it, but we didn't have to call them.
Right.
We didn't have to do a bunch of research, and it can really build it out. And because and you can sanity check it, right? So enough about your audience usually that you can sanity check it. The other way I've done it is I've used Code Interpreter or Claude.ai, Claude 2, and I've uploaded a PDF. And I say, okay, how would you define the audience of what this is? Who is this for? And it'll come up with an answer. Sometimes the answer needs a little bit more work. But that also tells me that maybe the PDF needs more work. But they'll actually go ahead, they'll read it, and it'll come back and tell you who that target audience is and where they're spending their time. And you can keep asking it questions. What social media channels is it on? And things like that. And it's using data that it has to let you know where that audience is.
That's fascinating because, there are so many different uses of AI, and you're feeding in, basic information about who you think the audience is, but then it's filling out the rest of the gaps for you in the same way that if you called these people up and you ask them, here, you're this, but then you say, what is your, favorite sports, what are the typical, publications you read and stuff. And it's able to accurately predict based on that starter information that you gave it, but it also understands what industry you're trying to understand. And then puts these things together and then fills out the rest of it for you. Everything with AI is about the input you give it, but you're giving it certain select pieces of data and then letting it finish out, the profile essentially. And you're saying that these profiles are like highly accurate. You've tested them afterwards and said, yeah. And this saved, like in a survey, how many people, if you were to put together that profile, how many people would it take calling on, or contacting to be able to get the same kind of information?
I probably would have had to call 20 people.
Okay. So 20 people, and then, which would be...
To get the 20 on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Especially nowadays too, because, nowadays it's extremely hard, because of the, robocallers, that never quit. So, I don't know about you, but I don't answer my phone if they're not on my contact list. I've given up on that idea. So you're able to save all of that time in trying to reach those people actually going through the questions, and yet you're still coming up with the same endpoint. It still gave you what you would have gotten if you had done it all manually.
So I would say that there's the one thing that I find that's missing is some of the words that they use.
Okay.
It will give me, I would say I get 98% there, but I'm a big fan of talking to people because then you can hear the words that they use to describe their problems and their issues, which really helps you drive better content. But it gets me a lot closer than I would be with people that aren't going to make the phone calls anyway.
Yeah, well, because a lot of that would be, might be specific industry jargon that they use when they're talking, or, just ways of talking. It's almost like how you have if you live in different parts of the country, you have an accent, in a sense, so you understand that their lingo is a little bit different, but it's their natural way of talking. So depending on how you're trying to reach them, that might be information that's, that is pertinent. So how good is AI gotten into predicting like the different interest and needs of the audiences that you're putting together and such, because you're doing the audience with the idea that you're going to, eventually market something to them. So how accurate is it going to be in like really matching them up?
So it's actually been pretty good in terms of, I'm like, okay, I'm working on building a new business and I'm trying to create some products or services that would appeal to this audience. And I give it the audience it gave me. And I will say, what are some problems that they're facing? Give me a list of 10 or 20 different things that they're struggling with. And again, you have to have, in my belief, you have to have some level of knowledge in what you're providing.
Oh, yeah.
And so there is a little bit of a common sense gut check on some of those questions. Because some of them I'm like, that group's not with that one.
Yeah.
But there'll be 9 other items on the list that are like, oh, yeah, no, I can definitely see that hole or the need for that product or service or the fact that they're struggling with that question. And then it gives me enough to go back. And so like I'll put some of the questions that I ask it, I'll put them into Google and I'll look at the people also ask, or I'll put it into Answer the Public just to see again what it's coming up with, to see how I can supplement it around that topic. And it's been fairly accurate in terms of what people are searching for and the questions that they're asking related to those things. And even though like ChatGPT hasn't been trained since before 2021 or whatever it is, September 21, is that it? Where its training stops, it's still been very accurate in the questions that people are asking around certain technologies and things like that I wouldn't have thought it would have access to.
Yeah, I know, a lot of people are using it as like, because Chat came out with an app and stuff so that they're, instead of going to Google, they're asking Chat to, give it, answers. And a lot of times, like, it doesn't necessarily replace Google or, because of the different types of information that you can run into and everything. But the way it gives you that information back is what's, often more illuminating because, it's telling you certain things, versus you having to look at a bunch of different websites to, hunt down essentially the answer that you need. So from an audience standpoint, I mean, it's like, you're really able to figure out a lot more about the people you want to deal with, but then you're also able to see, if I'm putting together a product or a service, who, I've figured out, okay, who's my ideal client, or customer, but also how do I put together what they're looking for, what kind of a service? Because, I guess personalization, the way you can specialize, in different services and such, if you're putting this, together, okay, does AI have the ability to help you personalize messages? Because we know AI, I can ask it to write things and I can, there's all sorts, but the question that's constantly come up is it's not good at tone, voice and things like that. I tend to disagree. I think it can do these things. We've tested it and can do these things, but if you can't give it the right input, then you're not going to get, back. And that's where you're going to get that generic, answer because you haven't. And, that's why I say that it's going to be the rise of the AI engineer, the person that knows how to do the prompts really well. I mean, we've got somebody on our staff that is customizing the prompts, because we use AI as an assistant for most of our employees. So is it going to be like, personalized messaging and such, and help you along in that front?
Yes, 100%. So I am a big believer with you. AI can do all of that. It can take on tone. It can take on voice. You just have to give it the right inputs. Mm-hmm. Like I have 5 voices for my company that I use. I have my blog voice. I have my social media posting voice. For my personal pages, I have my corporate LinkedIn page voice. So I have all of these different voices that it gives me different results.
Yeah.
I have an email voice again, because I put samples in. I got the voice from stuff that I had written in the past that worked well.
Yeah.
Got the voice and I can put that in and have it give me stuff that's similar. And I love the fact that I can do that. So yes, people keep saying that copywriters are going away. Do I think they're going to go away eventually? Maybe. But people that can communicate are the ones that are going to be in high demand in the short term. And that's a big piece of it. If you're not getting what you want out of AI, then you're doing something wrong because there's a way to do it. You just need to ask better questions. But, I saw an ad on TikTok for Zapier and they were talking about how they were connecting to their email and auto responding to different emails and things like that. I don't recommend that, at least not with ChatGPT, because nothing's secret. And I don't want my corporate inbox to go different places. But yes, AI can personalize. I use it if I know what I want to say in response to a negative review, if I know what I want it to say in response to a Facebook message or a Facebook comment on a post or something along those lines, I can actually have it, rewrite that. I just put it in here, answer this, and it will.
Yeah.
It'll give me an excellent answer. I just give it a couple of words and it'll do that. But longer term, I'm a big fan of email marketing. I think it's hugely effective and efficient. But longer term, we're using dynamic content. We're using all of those different things right now for email marketing, but it's going to start personalizing it even more.
Yeah.
It's going to start being able to send an individual email to each person on your profile based on the stuff that they've interacted with and things like that. So it's going to get more sophisticated. It's not at the level where that's super easy out of the box. But again, I think when you're personalizing content, it can definitely do that and create merge fields and things like that where you're able to actually create additional things and again, create dynamic content so that, if you're a clothing company and you're writing to a woman who's only ordered men's clothing in the past, maybe, for their husband or spouse or whatever, you can do that. And you can do that based upon the information that you have inside of your databases. And AI is making that easier and easier to connect and to build out.
I think so Facebook's supposed to be running a test for split testing, and they're using, because they're working on their own AI version, as well. And they're incorporating it into their ads platform, to run Facebook ads and stuff. And, thinking of, figuring out your audiences and such, if they incorporate it in there, and we talk about personalizing messages, the thing that I can see happening for them is, and Google could go this route too, because like Google on Google Ads has the headline fields, okay? And so right now you write the headlines, okay, and then it mixes and matches with the rest of the description and the other elements of the ad. In the case of Facebook, essentially, I could see the same thing happening, but now AI takes over. So you may load up an individual iteration of the ad, because they're also creating where you'll be able to do all the design work within the platform too. Okay, so you won't have to upload separate ads. You'll be able to, it can basically generate them for you. So how you got Midjourney can generate you an ad within the platform, okay, that can then be run. I could see it going in a direction of iterations that are all personalized. So the test that they're running is supposed to be like 50,000 iterations for ads to see which performs best. So what I could see them actually doing or making available is that you start and create the same, the first basic ad. You've got an audience in there that you think is, okay, it's defined and this is who I'm trying to go after. But what it does is take and then personalize the ad. So imagine that in your feed, you get, we could both be fed the same ads, yet mine looks different than yours. It's the same company, it's the same product or service or whatnot, but your imagery is different than mine, and even your wording is different because it's personalizing it on the fly, for each person that it shows the ad to. And depending on how you interact, it gets smarter and smarter the longer you actually run the ad. So you think of how, like in the case of Facebook ads, typically you want to change them depending on how much they've shown, because there's a part, you hit a point of decreasing returns. So if they could iterate on the fly, you'd actually never need to change the ad because it's changing every time it shows itself. And Google could end up doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think, again, they started a little bit with it in terms of how they mix the different pieces that you write. But yes, they're going to start changing the copy for you because Facebook wants your ads to be successful.
Yeah.
Because if it's successful, they get more money.
Yeah, I could see Google using your initial base ads because they use like your headlines because that allows them to understand what you're selling. So based on what you write, it then starts doing altered versions of those headlines. It's not just swapping the headline, it's actually rewriting it as it, as it sees more and more of how who clicks on it and everything about them, versus who didn't click on it. And then it's kind of like, why didn't they click? And if they build that into the system, it's the AI essentially, being the ad manager and making constant changes to it. And we're not, like I say, every single time it shows. It's more than just mix and match.
Right. Yeah. And right now, I think the mix and match is actually working pretty well. So to get it to the next level where it's rewriting, as long as it's not hallucinating on a regular basis, I think that you're in a good place.
I've heard that that's, become the regular term when it's like, acting a little, strange. It's hallucinating. So let's talk marketing messages, because this kind of goes into, okay, if it's able to eventually iterate, but what can it do now to help you with different messaging and such, and be able to test different stuff? How do you see AI assisting, marketers, business owners that, want to be able to, they've got to be able to craft different messages for whatever it is they're selling?
So I've had a lot of great experience with this, mostly because I was like, okay, this is not going to appeal to my target audience at all. And so when I'm like, okay, let's add this, please rewrite to make sure that it appeals to this audience, and I'll give it the audience that I want it to appeal to. And then I'll say, okay, now rewrite for this audience, and it'll rewrite for this other audience. And it actually has it's outperformed stuff that my copywriter has written because it has been more relevant to the target audience. We've run some tests because you have to run it really side by side to really understand. But the AI generated content in the ads has outperformed the person.
Yeah. I say, is the AI smarter than we are? Like say, or is it more creative?
But again, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be smart enough to be putting in the right stuff. When you're putting the right information in, it's so powerful what you get back. But it'll rewrite 4 or 5 versions based upon the different target audiences that you're looking to do. Going back to that engineer example that I gave you, if I look at the engineering manager towards the end of his career that's confident in his job and what he's doing, and he's the perfect target for this one company, well, one of the people that they have to start winning over is the junior engineer who has to work with the company. It's not as secure and might be worried that this service is going to replace them, right? And so you have to win them over. Well, that's an entirely different piece of communication. And it'll take the same piece with a similar goal, again, of what we're trying to get them to sign up for, and it'll rewrite it. To appeal to that audience. And it's totally different, but yet it achieves what it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think that's, what people don't understand, how far it can actually go with things. You have to experiment with these, different AI platforms to see what they can actually do. So you have to take the time, and for us, as users of these different platforms, there is quite a learning curve. I mean, it's not hard to use, any of the AI things. It's hard to get, it takes time and effort to get good at them, because I say it's all about that input and what, you've got to understand that if you go further with your commands, and it's kind of funny because, is it in some cases more work to write the command than it would have been to write the piece that you wanted to give you back? But in a lot of, in most cases, it's better to write the command and, save the command. Know that you can alter it later. If it's something that you're going to...
I have a prompt library of different pieces. So I've got the voices. Again, like I said, I have 5 voices. I have those saved. I have different roles saved. I have voices for client social media posts that, again, and I edit them because, again, you're going to make the difference in AI, at least for now, until it gets way too good. But again, I think it's based off of existing data. So again, the better you get for it, the better everything is.
And I think within organizations too, if you've got a marketing team or you work, if it's an agency you work with, whatever it might be, because like I say, you've got a list of different prompts you use. We have one too, and that way you're not constantly, and we have some, you get some that are quite sophisticated on the prompts. And then you edit the prompts based on changes to what you're trying to ask. Like you need variations of the same question, but you don't, need a whole new question. The nice thing when you have those prompts is from the human element, you can more easily train someone to be, because you can start them off with prompts you've already written, and it helps them learn, how the prompts work and how sophisticated they can be. and you're going to get back something more, more accurate, like you can trust that they're going to be able to use it once you've trained them to do it as well. But and they continue to build your library out of different uses, because depending on if you want blog writing or social posting or ad writing or website content, whatever it might be that you want to be able to put together different strategies for different types of businesses. As you said, like you mentioned, you worked with nonprofits and such. Well, marketing for a nonprofit can be different. So you might have the beginnings of a strategy, for it, and it's tweaked based on what the nonprofit's function is. What is it that that they're built around? So there's all sorts of things you'd be able to put together.
So yeah, and I mean, I think one of the big things that you need to do with AI is get used to. So there's a couple different things. One is you have to use it all the time. So start using it in your personal life. They have apps.
Yeah.
You can start, asking it what you should cook for dinner and things like that. I mean, simple things, right? But I also think that, and I try to do shorter prompts. My prompts can be pretty long, even the short pieces, but it's easier to root cause if you do it into pieces and figure out if you're getting what you want to get. But I would say, always building the prompt is going to save you time in the long run, unless you're never doing that task ever again, which is very rare.
So, for business owners, taking advantage of AI, it's something they should be doing. They need to understand that you can use it to figure out audiences, figure out your target, demographics and customers and stuff. And also it can go through to help you write the content, the headlines and things you want to do. But you have to, like I say, everything is about your input. You need to have time, take time to understand it. Make sure if you're going to have staff members use it, that they understand it, and build out a library of prompts, of different functions. There's tons of businesses that are already taking advantage of it. And it's one of those things that AI is such that I know in the marketing industry, it's pretty much been embrace it or fall behind. You pick which way you want to go. And so as an agency, we're embracing it, you're embracing it, and I know of others that are, and you've got some people that are, still want to fight against it.
I met somebody the other day who's scared. She just flat out said she's scared of AI. She has no interest in ever using it. And I'm like, that's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as job, there will be job losses from it. That's just what happens. But it also creates jobs. They'll be in different fields. They'll be related to the use of it. And in some cases, it doesn't replace positions on the whole. Everybody is like, oh, this thing will become totally irrelevant. No, not necessarily. Like I say, content writers won't go away. The number we need might be reduced. But the ones that we have that are still in the field are using this to their advantage and helping them be more efficient in their job, more creative and stuff, get past things like writer's block and whatnot. So you end up, potentially with a much better, workforce, and stuff for it, and definitely, better educated in the fact that they can use these kinds of tools and such, and they understand. So it's better to embrace than, like I say, you can stick your head in the sand, go ahead, but, that's probably going to be to your detriment.
Agreed, 100%, because this is one of those things that if you're not embracing it, you're going to fall behind and you may not be able to catch up.
Yeah. So, Kendra, this has been great. How do people get a hold of you if they need a strategist?
Yeah, so you can go ahead and reach out through my website, which is h2hconsulting.net, H the number 2, the letter H, consulting.net, or send me an email at support@kendracorman.com.
And so another great episode. We've been talking AI. You should, as a business owner, be embracing it.